Hello everyone, welcome again to Ag Life. I'm Gerard. Lampow on the menu. Alpacas on the move as they make a return to Western Canada's leading ag showcase, plus water quality for your cattle and Preg checking. We have a chat about succession planning and a teaser on Harvest Festival coming up on November 8th. Lots to unpack. First, it's just an old hole in the ground. Well, maybe not. I find out the right way to safely deal with abandoned water wells.
About 3 years ago, my well started to give me problems. I think it was about the time when I made a rink for my boys.
Aaron Agar farms with his family east of Unity. He was at a Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities meeting when he heard about the program to decommission wells. Robin Fleesick, who ranches in Neilburg, encourages producers to decommission their wells properly.
Nobody cares more about the environment, it feels like, than farmers and ranchers, but it's important that they understand the reason why we take these steps to fill them in properly.
So what you're looking at is a well decommissioning. The new well was put in place a few months ago, and now the old well is being reclaimed, and funding for this is available through the Canadian Agriculture Partnership.
Through the CAP program, if you're an agriculture producer and you have $50,000 in gross farm income, and there's other requirements too, you have to have a premise ID if you have livestock. You can apply to the program to get 90% of your eligible costs back.
Smith says that includes the contractor, the bentonite, gravel, and clay. She helps producers get to know about the Farm and Ranch Water Infrastructure Program and the Farm Stewardship Program. It's not good to just put topsoil down the old water well. This could contaminate the groundwater below. Covering abandoned wells keeps our family, pets, and livestock safe.
In order to properly decommission a well, we use bentonite, which is it's a chip, and when it forms with water, it provides like a cement, so it doesn't allow any contaminants to get through it. So we use bentonite in the bottom of the well, and then we use layers of gravel and bentonite.
The materials are layered in, the old casing is cut off, and the hole filled in completely. Smith assists producers in getting the paperwork done. Just don't start before eligibility is confirmed.
We come out to your farm and help you fill out the pre-approval worksheets, which we have to measure the well and measure how much water is in there, and then we fill out the worksheets and then get it approved.
The project can take upwards of 2 hours depending on the size of the well. The homeowner can add clay, topsoil, and grass so the area is totally restored.
As a ranch mom, I sure don't want a hole in around my yard.
Time to roll our events calendar. Remember, if you've got a community event, just email me, glampow@newcap.ca. Let's have a look at it. And when we come back, we meet a woman in agriculture who's blazing the conversation about succession planning and holistic management, plus a teaser on Harvest Festival. Do stay with us.
This segment of Ag Life is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, and Lamont.
Thank you for choosing Ag Life. In any pregnancy, it's important to know how the baby is doing. A local vet is stressing the importance of Preg checking in cattle. Now, some of the images in this story may be of a sensitive nature.
We are determining whether cows and heifers have gotten pregnant through the summer, or whether what we call open or non-pregnant.
Dr. Daryl Hanley, who is one of the partners at the Lloydminster Animal Hospital, says producers, especially on the purebred side, will want to know whether their cow is having twins or even around the 60 to 90-day gestation, whether it's a bull or a heifer.
Preg checking it's economical. The reasons behind the advantages of preg checking to find out whether they are carrying a calf is that it's expensive if they're not. Cows, heifers are an investment, and if they're not going to give us a calf in the fall, which we can make money on, then we're feeding them through the winter. We're having to breed them again a year later. On average, feeding a cow through the winter is going to be $500, $600, $700 that we would spend, and they're not even pregnant, waiting for a chance to breed them a year later.
At $800 to $1,200 a calf for fall sales, it's not economical to run an operation with cows that are not producing calves. Veterinarians will physically check for a calf as well as use ultrasound technology.
We can find things like an abnormal pregnancy, we can find infections internally, we can find tumors, something wrong with the ovaries, and so there's lots of other things that we can determine, not just whether or not they're pregnant.
Your vet can find what's called free martins. That's where there's a boy-girl twin. Dr. Hanley says there's an 80% chance the female calf won't be able to reproduce. Back to the economics, producers may keep an open cow for another reason.
Unless they're an expensive purebred animal that may be worthwhile keeping. On the commercial side, when they're not purebred, it doesn't make any financial sense to keep them for an extra year to breed them a year later.
These Black Angus and Speckled Park in particular produce good marbling and are on track for spring deliveries.
She could be as early as April 12th.
Time now to chat about succession planning and holistic management. This conversation is all about the future. Now, while the assets are critical, Kelly Sidoryk, who has a tremendous background in agriculture, talks about creating a shared vision to manage the operation going forward.
The list of the assets and resources, you know, there's a lot of technical pieces that need to be looked at, and those do need lawyers and they do need accountants. But I feel that, you know, the first conversations have to come back to creating that shared vision first. And then you can be so much more effective going to the professionals and saying, okay, these are two options that we see. How are we going to do it? And then, of course, you know, what about the siblings that are non-farm? How are they looked after? And what about the parents? If they're moving off the farm into different areas, where are they going to be? What's their life going to look like? And I think especially for farmers, and that's who I know and ranchers the best, but, you know, they have worked so hard all their life, and to shift to something that's doesn't have engagement and meaning is hard. So I think trying to come up with what's a go-to, you know, you're leaving one thing, but what are you going to? And because there's so much value and wisdom that they have. Share with others.
You should at least leave a window open where they can participate, even though they're not there 24/7.
Yes.
Yeah, or maybe more than a window.
Maybe more than a window, but each operation is unique, and coming up with what works best, I think, is a key piece of it. And that's the holistic management link again, too, is recognizing that you know, there's some principles, but still how we apply them is not the same as how everybody else. And it's a process, and nobody's perfect either, but just trying to do some things that make the transition easier, I think, yes.
Yeah. There's a sensitivity certainly that is needed there, hence the reason I was just jumping at the bit, and I'm glad you're making the connection between the holistic management and the succession planning in there in terms of exactly where they are connected. Things that our parents did 40, 50, 60 years ago. The technology has changed. People have a passion for the older tractors and stuff like that. But what is the philosophy? What is the vision that we should take into this as we're moving into the new century, and youngsters are being encouraged to stay on the farm?
Well, I think one of the pieces is trying to recognize that there is so many opportunities out there, but they're going to be different than how we've been doing them for the last number of years. And, you know, I should say that, I mean, the succession piece applies to all operations, no matter what your production model, you know, that's a common ground. And I hope that's a piece of what we're starting to learn, because there is a lot of divisiveness in agriculture where we, you know, want to look at things in a more polarized way. And I think the idea of coming together, because we need all these different kinds of operations, you know, big, small, whatever, to make this work. But it's also, from the technology piece, so interesting when you think of food production and consumers and, you know, Amazon buying big food companies, and that now we can start ordering our food through Amazon. I think it's a little harder for us in a smaller, more rural center to appreciate that, but you know, the drone comes and drops it on
your door.
Yes, yes. And people are interested in, where did that come from? How was it produced?
Yeah.
And that piece of it as well. So
I mean, on a light note, I still can't wrap my head around this, because we talk about buying local and such like that, and then folks say, well, I got my food in a box, and I said, but where was it packaged? And they said, I said, okay, but I said, I know so many farmers right here.
yes, for sure. And that leads me to something else that we can talk about, is the Harvest Festival event, which is coming up on November 8th at the exhibition grounds. It's going to be our 8th year, I think, of that, and I work on the committee as a volunteer basis, but we try to really support local producers and then combine it with a bit of a foodie gourmet chef component. And this year we're going to add beer pairings to it. So that's kind of exciting for those of us who like the beer aspect of it. But yes, so again, trying to include that element of it. But there's many pieces of that to make it challenging too, our marketing programs and the like.
Yeah, the whole range of what's possible in agriculture is changing, and I think as well there's more added incentive to encourage young people to be a part of it, and not say, well, I'll be the sibling in the family. I don't want anything further to do with the farm. When in fact there's the marketing, there's the who will tell the ag story.
Yes, yes. And you know, another piece that we talk about is an idea that came up with that originated with a fellow by the name of Ernesto Ciroli. And he has an organization, that I believe it's called Community Dynamics, and he talks about, in operations and businesses, there's some hats we need to wear. So somebody needs to wear the production hat, somebody needs to wear the financing hat, somebody needs to wear the marketing hat, and I want to add that I think somebody needs to wear the HR hat as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the point being, especially in sole proprietorships for farms, you know, one person, it's very difficult to wear all those hats. So how can we start thinking of ways to work collaboratively or engaging other family members so that somebody can wear the different hats to be more effective? And you know, certainly the marketing one, you know, the whole online presence of and strategy is just phenomenal compared to what it was even 10 years ago.
And admit it, everyone, you don't have those skills. I'm trying to tell the ag story with using my own skills, but I lean on folks like yourselves who've lived this all your life and actively involved in the community to be a part of this process now. So I fully get it, and I hope folks watching this, you're getting that too.
Yes,
that this is what it is required.
Yes, yes.
We can't be a jack of all trades,
no,
so to
it's
speak,
very
or
hard
Jack
to
or
be,
Jill.
Yeah, yes, Jack or Jill. There we go to the women in ag piece, because that's an important part of it too.
Let's talk about that, because women in agriculture, we've always gotten this image of the man wearing the hat and everything, but the reality is, and it's more than just meals in the fields. Oh,
absolutely, absolutely. Forever, I think, you know, women have played a strong and important role in agriculture, be it in, you know, the supportive roles. Some of them are working off farm, and that's providing some other resources back to it. Some are running the operation, some are doing the marketing, some are doing the accounting, you know, but again, is there a skill set where that's the beauty of a business like farm or ranch, is that you can do it however you want to, so that if there's different niches that you can apply, then that's great.
Yeah. What has been your own experience? I mean, share with me some of the things that you're involved in as a woman in the agriculture industry.
Well, our operation is predominantly cattle. Well, cattle and grazing and a forage-based operation. So, you know, I was so fortunate to have the opportunity just to dive in, and so I did. And, you know, so there's so many great people out there, and we have daughters and a son, so you know that having everybody involved if they want to, that's one of the approaches, you know. And I think traditionally that some of the farmers and ranchers became involved because they felt obligated, and my hope is that now young people are coming back to the farm because that's their choice. They really want to. It isn't an obligation that they feel they had to become a burden. So yeah, but all the opportunities that you can have, you know, for me working with livestock, and I mean that's one of my passions. I love the opportunity to be able to do that, and then working with a lot of great people too, right? To share our ideas and keep learning, and yeah, change. You know, we used to say that change is the only constant, and it absolutely is, and it seems to be at an accelerated pace.
And when we come back, alpacas are making a return to Agribition in Regina this November. Do stay with us.
Ag Life continues now, and we're out in the Hillmont area at TNC Farms. It's all about the alpacas. Kathy Merkley and, of course, Trudy McCall. You guys have been having alpacas here for quite some time, but you're the one that comes on the camera and chats with me all the time. So, Kathy, how's it been with the alpacas this year?
We've had a really good year with the alpacas. We've had 13 baby alpacas born. 10 of them here on our farm and 3 at farms elsewhere where we co-own alpacas. We had really good quality babies born this year. We're really happy with their conformation and their fleece characteristics. And we had a really good breeding season too. All of our females, the vast majority of them caught first breeding. So it's gone really well for us.
Awesome. How long are these guys going to stay here with you before they have to move on either to market and such? Of course, the prime reason is for their fleece.
Yeah, we raise the alpacas because of their beautiful fleece characteristics. If anyone has alpaca socks, they understand why we raise alpacas. But our main business is selling purebred registered breeding stock. So we're raising the best quality alpacas we can. We take them to the shows, and they, you know, hopefully do really well for us there, and that's one of the ways that we market them. We're going to have an alpaca show at Agribition in Regina on November 19th and 20th. It's a Monday and Tuesday. And we haven't had an alpaca show at Agribition for a long time, but Agribition contacted the Saskatchewan Alpaca Breeders Network and invited us to come back to Agribition. So we're really looking forward to that new event and participating in such an important agriculture show.
Perfect. Now, one of the other things that's so important and that you've been able to develop over the years with your partner, Trudy McCall, in this business here is raising the genetics, raising the level. And of course, guys in the cattle industry, they work on that too. Tell me how that has changed, how that has grown for you guys over the years. What, 22 years is it?
22 years we've been raising alpacas. So when we first bought alpacas, they'd only been in Canada for 4 years. And really none of us knew anything about alpacas or about their fiber. And Trudy and I went from farm to farm to farm, and we looked at all the different alpacas, and we opened up their fleeces, and we said, oh, is that ever nice? And they were a pretty primitive lot that first came into Canada. And so the really great thing about a breeding program is that it just never gets old because you're always trying to make a better baby. And so we've learned an awful lot over the years about alpacas and about their fleece characteristics and about what is desirable, and have worked really hard, and I have to say been very successful in improving our stock. And Canadian alpacas could compete anywhere in the world, and we have the quality from Canadian breeders to show that that we have made some major strides in progress with the fleece. Yeah,
for sure. And these babies are just hanging out around us here. How old are they now?
We try to have our crias born in May and June. It's a really good time. The mums have been sheared And so we can see what's going on. The babies don't have to fight through fiber to get through an udder or anything like that. And then we have green grass, and green grass makes bonny babies. So if we can have May and June crias, our oldest one is, I think, Atik and Sheena were born mid-May, and then the youngest one is Fiona. She was born a little bit later in July. Her mom has a tendency to have a long pregnancy, so she was a little bit later, the last one, but they're all doing really well. They've all had really good weight gains, and the quality of pasture that we've had this summer has really helped with good production and growth in the crias.
And still to come, a conversation about water quality. Do stay with us. Indeed, water is life, so improving its quality while minimizing the cost is a no-brainer. I meet with one producer who's doing that for his cows while taking care of the land.
When we purchased the water trough from Paradise Hill Farm Supply, they mentioned that there was grants available and who we needed to talk to.
Mark Belanger and his family have ranching traditions dating back to the 1890s on the banks of the Turtle River. This summer, he set up a solar-powered trough system for his cattle and fencing so that they won't drink directly from the river.
Even in this cold spell we had, it kept pumping. The only trouble we seem to have had on a couple occasions, when the tank got low enough, the float would freeze.
As it gets colder, Belanger will pull the system out. They are winter systems which can get below the ice when the river freezes over. He is now getting provincial help through Canadian Agriculture Partnership funding to recover his costs.
Essentially, the program is there to help build infrastructure to maintain their water resources. And in this case here as well, it helps maintain the integrity of the riparian areas.
Bonneau says his area literally covers from Lloydminster to Hudson Bay. He works with the farm stewardship programs, which are seeding programs for problem soils, and range management programs, which include fencing to deal with riparian areas and range pasture.
The paperwork is all online, or you could call one of us or one of the technicians to help you with that paperwork.
Bonneau says this project covers two bases, a good quality water source, and preserves the land. Producers needing further information on the many programs that are available for funding can call the Ag Knowledge Center in Moose Jaw at 1-866-457-2377 or go on the Saskatchewan government website. In this case, producers can benefit from $50,000 for the lifespan of the farm and ranch water infrastructure project that they have undertaken.
Takes a little bit of abuse from cows banging into it and does its job.
Well, that's a wrap on this edition of Ag Life. If you've got a comment, story, idea, we'd certainly love to hear from you. You can certainly drop me a note, glampow@newcap.ca. Thanks a whole lot for watching. Yours in Ag. Take care.